This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Hey guys, Big Paul here today with another one for you. We're going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that bros make when they put a steroid cycle together. Mistake number 1, front loading. I don't know where the front loading bullshit came from, probably from I don't think they did it during the golden era that I know of. I think this was maybe a thing in the 80s or 90s, or maybe it was the message boards where it came around, because I don't recall guys back in Arnold's day would do a taper up. But gym bros somehow think that front loading a cycle with Anadrol or D-ball or some very toxic oral will get them off to a faster start and get them more gains, while they wait for the slower esters to kick in. All you're doing is building up toxicity and causing a shit ton of side effects when you could be taking advantage of the lower doses. I like to taper up because you're gonna make gains off of even just a small increase at the beginning of the cycle. That's not when you need the higher doses. It's at the end of your cycle when you hit the sticking point is when you need more gear. So slowly ramp up as you go, add more and more and more as you hit the wall, but get away with the least possible to make progress. Front loading makes zero sense. Guys end up just mounting up side effects, mounting up toxicity, and then you have to cut your cycle short, and if you cut your cycle short, you're not gonna make any gains. Mistake number 2 that I see dudes make is running short cycles. Guys will run these short, weak cycles, these like 6 to 8 week cycles of things like D-ball, Anadrol, or they'll just do a little bit of tests. I think they just want to dip their toe in the pool. They're scared of doing a full-blown cycle, and they think somehow they can get some muscle out of it and get out before the problems mount. All you're doing is causing more problems. You're going to shut yourself down. You're not going to get any of the benefits of being on, and you're going to lose everything that you gain from doing the short cycle and then coming off. It makes zero sense. When we're evaluating a cycle, when we're taking risk, we want to have some benefit, some payoff for the risk that we're taking. And running 6 to 8 week cycles will get you nothing. You might as well just not run a cycle at all. You're wasting your time. The third big mistake that I see dudes make is choosing the wrong compounds for the cycle. I see guys using cutting compounds when they're doing bulking cycles. I see guys using bulking compounds when they're doing cutting cycles. Shit that makes absolutely no sense. Running toxic orals right out of the gate, like I talked about with front loading, makes no sense whatsoever. So being intelligent about the compounds that you choose, choosing the right compounds, the best ones for getting the job done, makes the most sense. I have a full video up about choosing the right compounds for the job. Search it. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I think it's called The Right Steroid for the Right Job or something like that. But where I go through and I break down each and every anabolic steroid, talk about the side effects, the effects, when to take risk. You know, something like Tren. You know, I never made sense to me why guys run Tren in the off season. Tren is not really that good of a size builder because you can't run it in high enough doses without a lot of toxicity to build size. I know it will motivate strength. Tren is more of a body composition drug. You know, so when we want to leverage Tren as a contest prep, when we can run it in low doses and get maximum effect out of it. When we're in the off season, we want to minimize toxicity and be able to run higher doses of anabolics, things that stimulate muscle protein synthesis, things like nandrolone, things like testosterone, that have a low cost of doing business. They're relatively safe. We can run them at higher doses. You know, primobolan would be an example. You could run a gram of primobolan relatively safely. You can't run a gram of trenbolone safely. There's just no way you can do it. Using the right steroid at the right time makes the most sense. Number 4, cycling on and off. This one drives me absolutely insane. And there's a lot of like guys that were former pro bodybuilders, former high level IFBB pros that are still preaching from this old, antiquated script. It makes zero sense. They have this thing that they believe that there is an androgen receptors get oversaturated and they stop working after a period of time, which has been proven to be false. There's been multiple studies done on it showing that androgen receptors actually upregulate when exposed to exogenous androgens. So that's not the issue. Coming off completely, all you're doing is crashing your hormones, creating an environment where you're going to lose your gains. And most of these dudes were only coming off for 6 to 8 weeks anyway. Most of these compounds are still present in your system, so you're not even completely off anyway. All you're doing is creating a hormonal yo-yo and making yourself feel sick for no reason whatsoever, and doing toxic, harsh PCT compounds to try to have some sort of recovery when you still have suppressive drugs in your system. It makes absolutely no sense, and all you're doing is creating a bad environment for muscle growth. Just run TRT for 8 to 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever, for the time that you want to come down, wash off toxicity. I do agree with that you need to wash off some toxicity. I think guys mistake this this androgen receptor thing for just toxicity buildup and myostatin buildup. And, you know, I found that 16 to 20 weeks seems to be the optimal time that you can be on blast. And if you slowly incrementally raise your doses, you can actually run even longer cycles. So there's only so much muscle protein synthesis you can stimulate at a time. So slowly increasing your doses and running longer duration cycles probably yields better results over the long term than doing it the way these old guys would do, where they would cycle on and off. It just makes no sense whatsoever. Overdoing the ancillary drugs. Guys have this fear of estrogen and fear of prolactin, and they take things like aromatase inhibitors unnecessarily. They take things like Caber unnecessarily, and they just end up ruining their gains and adding more toxicity when it's not necessary. Plus, estrogen is cardioprotective and neuroprotective. When you're in the off season, you want to let your estrogen run as high as you possibly can without having side effects. As long as you're not getting gyno, as long as you're not having sexual dysfunction, let it ride high. You actually get more muscle hypertrophy when your estrogen is high. That's why dudes gain so much off of D-bol, even though it's shitty methyl estradiol. Let your estrogen run as high as you possibly can in the off-season. You don't need an AI. And with the Caber, if you need to run a toxic drug like Caber to counteract prolactin, then you probably shouldn't be taking the drug that causes your prolactin to get that high in the first place. In the off-season, I'm going to say it again, and I say it a million times, in the off-season, we want to run compounds that are low in toxicity and provide us the maximum benefit. We're going to let the food and the training do the work. We're going to let the food and the training do the work in the off season. And we want to run gear that's going to minimize side effects and maximize muscle protein synthesis. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. If you want to know how to do your cycle, your training, your nutrition correctly, get in contact with me about coaching or a consultation call. You can go to www.anabolicbodybuilding.com to book your spot, or you can shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you.